Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. On this episode, let's take a look at how you can control your Mac with your head. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 700 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So a new feature introduced in Catalina 10.15.4 was the ability to control the cursor with your head and even do actions like clicks using expressions. So to turn this on, go to System Preferences and then go to Accessibility. Then scroll down to Pointer Control. And here you'll see alternate control methods. Click there. First, let's take a look at Enable Head Pointer. Before we enable it, let's look at the options. I click on that. I can see the camera and I can choose if I have more than one. I can choose two modes relative to my head. So as I move my head it should control the cursor, or when I face the screen edges it should move it up, down, left, and right. I can change the speed and adjust that as needed. I also have a switch here to turn it on or off easily. So let's do that using F10, but I could reassign it to any keyboard shortcut. Now let's turn it on. I'll turn it on here and it says it's on, and you can see the cursor is kind of moving a little bit as I talk. Ideally you wouldn't be talking while you're actually using this. Now I'm not using my hands here. If I move my head to the left you can see the cursor moves with it. To the right, up, and down. So I can move it all around. It's jittery and not perfect, but it'll get the job done. Now you can also control it with the trackpad or mouse at the same time. So if I just stop moving my head and start dragging the cursor around, that takes over. So you can combine the use of your head and of the mouse or trackpad in doing this. Alright, now let's explore alternate pointer actions. So let's look at the options there. And as you can imagine, moving the cursor around with just your head isn't going to be very useful if you can't at least click. So here there are a couple of assigned different ways to click. For instance, you can use the F11 or F12 keys. The idea here is that maybe you have an alternate keyboard or switch system and they're sending F11 and F12 signals and you can use those as left and right click. But you could click the plus button here and instead of a physical switch assign one of these to a facial expression. So let's look at what the facial expressions are. Smile, open mouth, raise eyebrows, or stick out tongue. So for instance we can set raise eyebrows to left click. And it's done. So now I can click something by just moving my eyebrows. Let's give that a try. I'll turn both of these on. And now I'll move my head around like this. Let's click here. I can click here. And you can see it works pretty well. And you can still click using the mouse or trackpad. So as you can see you can add some other ones which would be critical for actually using this without actually using a trackpad or a mouse. So I could set, say, a smile or let's say an open mouth and make that drag and drop. So now I can move the cursor up and I'm going to open my mouth and try to drag the window a bit. You can see it worked. Now of course these are meant for people that need this functionality, but doesn't mean that the rest of us can't use it as well. It could be useful in situations where say you just want to browse the web or maybe read a book in the Books app or something like that and you want to be able to sit back and give your hands a rest from the keyboard and mouse or trackpad. It also could be good in a temporary situation. For instance, if you've got carpal tunnel or maybe you injure your hand or something like that and it kind of hurts to use it and you want to maybe have an alternative to controlling the mouse in some situations, you can turn this on, use the shortcut to quickly switch it on or off, and maybe give your hand a rest for 5 or 10 minutes while you control the mouse with your head and do things like clicking using facial expression. And if nothing else, that's an interesting thing to play with and it may give us a clue as to some future capabilities that we have. Imagine if this gets even better in the future and we're able to combine this with voice control and other things to control our computers in ways other than using a mouse and keyboard. I publish new tutorials every weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Then hit the little bell icon to get notifications for each new tutorial.